Hi, and welcome back to another edition of Inside Great Lakes Sailing. My name is Greg Normand, your host. Well, this is the 4th of July, and we're in the front of the Crescent Sail Yacht Club, a place where I belong. And the guys you'll see behind me, we're celebrating with a big barbecue on Friday afternoon. Hopefully it'll get a little windier for the weekend, but there's lots going on. We are going to bring you, I think, a pretty good show. We're going to catch up with the recent running of the 2025 Queen's Cup from Milwaukee to Muskegon. We're going to spend some time with John Nedeau, who won the race. We're also going to spend some time talking with Eric Weinsma, who, if you guys remember last year on Usual Suspects in the Chicago to Mac race, lost a mast. So this is the first time they've put the new boat back in the water in his crew. We're going to talk to him a little bit about that, and I think that'll be an interesting conversation. We also know that the Port Huron and Mackinac race is coming up next week, and we're going to hopefully be on the island for the party and do some video for that. But we're going to get a chance to talk to the Curtis. They've got a unique process for baggage. If you've got to take extra bags up to the island, they're going to talk to you a little bit about that. And we're going to check in with Wally Cross in the third of a series about what kind of sales we should be looking for. So I think we're going to have a pretty good show. One of the things you're going to want to pay attention to here in a couple seconds is we're going to bring you a little interview with Braden LaPlace. Braden is a 12-year-old junior sailing star, second place at Pontiac Yacht Club a couple weeks ago. And Braden jumped in the water to help his fellow competitors, just make sure they get their boats back in. A real act of sportsmanship. And somebody put a picture up. And as a coach, I can tell you it was really pretty cool to watch him just kind of interact. So I thought I'd catch up with him, and I did. And he's as good a young man as you could expect, and I just thought he should be rewarded for sportsmanship, and it's something that we're going to talk about. So we're going to bring that to you right now because I think it's pretty interesting. So Braden, tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, when I sailed in when I got second place, I started helping others, and Anthony started coming to help me. It actually felt pretty good to help them out.
Why?
Because it's teamwork. And
Yeah.
What's wrong with doing teamwork?
No, it's good. Every time you help out somebody, you got a smile on your face. So obviously, I'm guessing that's just your personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, I just wanted to thank you for being a cool kid, and I think it's pretty terrific, and that's why we want to let people know that you did some cool things.
Yeah.
Thanks. If that doesn't make your heart smile, Braden, I just want to congratulate you at the ripe old age of 12. You've got the sanity that a lot of folks don't have. So just for what it's worth, we'll be back in a second with all the folks from the Queen's Cup. Welcome back. We're talking to Lake Michigan Sail Racing royalty and John Nedeau. John, you just won the 2025 Queen's Cup coming across, and last year it was a monsoon, and this year it was a drag race. First of all, congratulations on the overall win. And if you had the choice between the two, you want drag races, or are you looking at what we had last year?
Well, for the boat that I have, it was fortuitous circumstance or conditions, which was very steady state with a moderate breeze out of the northwest, which was optimized for our boat. So I don't know if we could repeat this again, but good fortune shined on us that night, and it was a spectacular night, especially with the skyscape was just incredible in terms of the quality of the air and the lack of a moon, so you could really see the celestial stars. It was fantastic.
You're on a 53 Beneteau first. Talk about that boat, because to me it's a GL52 with a bathroom, and it's a lot more than that, certainly.
Yeah, you know what? About 20 years ago, I decided to retire from racing because I was really busy with my career, and it requires a large time commitment. But I did pick up a cruising boat at the time, which was a Jeanneau 45. Put it in the Mackinac race in the cruising class a couple times. Got some hardware flags there, and then took a sabbatical. Sold that boat, and then I was just looking online at some boat. I continue to get fed images of boats. I saw one that I thought looked kind of interesting, which was much more contemporary as a performance cruiser.
Right.
And that's what this is. Beneteau's built a boat that's got what I consider a really ample sail plan, and then a hull form that should go fast through the water, although it's loaded with equipment, so it's quite heavy.
I look at the racer cruiser options from the late 1970s, early 1980s. I've got a 34 O'Day, and downwind. It's a pig. It just doesn't go anywhere. It's a great cruising boat, and I got a 50-inch television, but you're not racing the boat. And I'm not sure what George O'Day did, but the boats today, like yours, are really truly cruising boats. But you can really race them. They have that option.
yeah, and it fulfilled that potential on Friday night. And, we also consider that a tune up for the Mackinac race. So I'll go in the cruising division in the Mackinac race and, hope for good conditions there.
This race comes at a kind of a cool point in the calendar, doesn't it? Kind of gets you that overnight, get you the night race, get you started. It's
Correct.
depending upon whether you're going to South Haven or Grand Haven or Muskegon. Do you have a favorite of the three cities? Do you like Muskegon the best because it's the shortest?
I'm biased because we grew up there in North Muskegon, and so I'm biased towards Muskegon. I think it's the best port in the Great Lakes. Um, but I think if we could do a scenario where every other year it's going to Muskegon, it'd be great. But that's my preference. But happy to go anywhere.
No. What was good about the race from the crew standpoint?
The crew, look, I should acknowledge it. All I did was drive. The crew made it all happen. And a really strong crew, many of them coming off some much more competitive boats, some guys who have experience either with a Santa Cruz 70, which is a boat my father had owned for a number of years, but also some of those, TP 52s. So the crew is really strong for, super fortunate for that. And then just some friends that I raced with forever on many of my father's boats who also are, enthused about seeing what we can do with this boat. So
There's an interesting article online right now about yelling or not yelling at sailors and coming on boats. Ron Sherry was the subject of a Detroit Free Press pre-Bayview Mackinac race, and he'd always talked about being calm. Your younger brother Sam was on this boat with you, where typically last year he was on Unusual Suspects.
Yep.
Does the older brother and captain get the last word, or does the lawyer?
I rely a lot on Sam relative to the tactics. He might suggest some things, and I'll make the final say. But I rely almost entirely on him tactically. He did a brilliant job the other night tactically in terms of where we wanted to be positioned in the event that the wind moved any more clockwise. And so, super happy to have his knowledge there. He's become a really, really good amateur racer. And so it's great to have him. I would say that one thing we've learned about, competitive sailing when you've got, professionals, and we didn't have any professionals on the boat the other night, but my experience with them is they're remarkably calm. And they'll communicate in a really calm manner, regardless of the circumstances. Like, we're going to do this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. And then it'll be, please, can I have some trim on the mainsail? Can I have some ease on the Genoa? Can I have some trim on the spinnaker chute? And wait for the affirming response. Yes, fine. And it's just really fascinating to observe. And I also had the benefit in the business that I'm in of getting involved in sponsorship of American Magic last year for the America's Cup Challenger, and was able to get over to Barcelona and be a part of, that program. And, the professionalism of those racers is they don't get all amped up. It's just, wouldn't matter the circumstance. They're going to be calm.
Yeah.
And they're going to be communicating very clearly, and then they're going to be expecting some reciprocity in terms of the conversation about what we're trying to achieve.
We had a chance to be there last year in Barcelona. We were also in Marseille with NBC covering some of the stuff. And when you go out with the 52s, it's amazing when the weather gets a little brisky, and they're never, to me, it's like a stunt man. They're never over the line. They're always near the line. And there isn't anything that's calculated. And if I go out sailing with friends, it looks like, chaos on a bus. It's a different animal, but it is so fun to watch. And when you get to even the foiling guys on the big, Sail GP guys, some of those guys, get a chance to go with them. Same kind of thing. It's just they're so calm and understanding what they're doing. Amateur racers could learn a lot from them being up.
Yeah, I'm sure it just comes from, experience, and then the confidence that they have, understanding, how to instruct and then what the crew response needs to be. So it's really fortifying and like learning and modeling and all that, so I try to stay as calm as I possibly can. There are times where I have to project a loud voice just because the ambient wind, but I think the T52 guys probably have mics on some of their uh, boats, where they're kind of mic'd up.
I'm an old football coach, so I have a loud voice to start with. So what looks like a loud voice and a big mouth, it is a big mouth, but you gotta be careful. Obviously, the Chicago Mac's coming up for you. Are you doing the Port Huron Mac?
I'm not doing the Port Huron Mac this
Okay.
year. I'm just going to do the Chicago Mac. So thought we'd kind of step into it a little more manageably.
You have experience and certainly have some Mac experience from Lake Huron standpoint and Lake Michigan standpoint. Are they different kinds of lakes?
They are, and both races have different challenges. And to put it simply, in the Chicago Mac, you turn right. In the Port Huron Mac, you turn left,
Okay.
which generally puts you on the wind a little bit more in Lake Huron, if you're, racing what the traditional course had been up around Cove Island, and then you're skirting along the Canadian coast, which is much more remote than I think what you experience in Lake Michigan. Whereas in Lake Michigan, the course tends to turn right, and typically with the prevailing winds, that becomes more reach running. You can get caught in a crappy beat, and it's treacherous because of the varying depths of the different water and that kind of thing. But they are different races, and so both challenge you in different ways.
Okay. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. Good luck in the Chicago race, and hopefully we'll see you up on the
Well,
island. And
pleasure's mine, and nice to meet you by Zoom here. And yeah, we'll just hope we're all just blessed to be out there, and we're just going to hope for the best conditions, and may the best sailors win.
John, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
All
Cheers.
right, man. Welcome back. We're getting a chance to spend some time with Erica Weinsma, who is the owner of Usual Suspects after the recent Queen's Cup. And the reason we're having this conversation is you had a chance to put your boat in the water for the first time. Obviously, last year during the Chicago Mac, you snapped the old mast, and having that kind of process, putting it back together, you had a third overall finish with the 52s in the Queen's Cup. And kind of talk about the race, and maybe we could talk briefly about putting the boat back together.
Yeah, sure. So as you and I were talking about separately, we had a lot of challenges. This is a new boat for us. The last one, unfortunately, was a total loss after that storm in last year's Mac race. So insurance company sent me a check, and I rushed out and bought another boat right away. So we had some moments we were doubting that this spring when we were struggling to get everything organized, but we're there. And yes, we had a very good Queen's Cup. We had all my same crew as last year. The only addition being, Ella Towner sailed with us. She's a really qualified young laser sailor, never been offshore. And my new boat captain, Grayson, who's a 16-year-old whiz kid, rock star dinghy sailor too. And we all just made it work. Things came together. We got off to kind of a crappy start, honestly. The actual start of the Queen's Cup was an absolute crime scene. There was boats just doing crazy. Everybody was trying for a starboard tack start. We came on the boat end on port tack and crossed their bows. Didn't quite have the courage to hoist our kite because we weren't sure we were clean, but it was close to being a thing of beauty. It took us a little while to figure out the right sail combination for that condition. We don't know this boat. It was our first time sailing it, really. And we kind of found a combo that worked for us. It was pretty versatile. We had an A4 kite and a Genoa staysail tucked inside of that, and we gave us the range that we needed to make it happen. So we just kind of tried to stay in touch. We had moments where we were special, but it was a fight the whole way across the lake. Edge of wipeout all the way across, 6 hours and 10 minutes. Stressful way to sail.
Where'd you get the new boat from?
Came from Cal Maritime, and it was built as by Tess. It's a kind of what I call an old guy TP52. It's a little bit more offshore focused, which suits our group well. It has 12 bunks in it, a proper head with a door and a toilet that flushes. You can stand up and walk around. It's awesome. A little heavier than the other 52s, which is a disadvantage, of course, but we also get credit for that in the rating system. So we don't have enough history yet, and those conditions were really ideally suited for this particular boat. So we know that that's part of this. But we were delighted that actually we were able to get sails up and down and everything worked, and we had it going. It was a good boat ride.
as you pointed out, the this isn't something as you're tweaking it to get it ready for racing and at the level that you guys are racing at. You don't go to West Marine and find a part. So it took a little time to get all
Yeah.
of the things taken care of. And there's only one guy that I guess measures boats. Am I correct on that?
I think there's one predominant person. He's awesome. We love the guy. It's a great experience, but he's busy. You know, U.S. Sailing only really has one person that they kind of send you to for this 3D imaging process, and until that's done, you don't get to put the rest of your boat together. So it was just our time frames got compressed. We had other challenges, of course. A lot of the little parts for the boat were missing or didn't seem to be in good enough condition. There was a lot of renovation that happened here during our assembly, so we were very late. It's frustrating as an owner. It's tough, but somehow we pushed through it. Now I'm all excited again. So life's good.
The Corinthian fleet for the 52s, you're one of them. You're going to get some challenge this year from Hooligan. They've had some time to get out and race a little bit. You guys have raced a little bit. So with the Chicago to Mac and the Port Huron to Mac coming up, should be some really good action out, not just within the 52, but within the Corinthian fleet as well.
I'm hoping so. Yes, I've been pushing that for 3 years, as you and I have been talking about all along, is trying to get more, club level teams and interested in these 52s. They're attainable now because there's boats that are 20 some years old that are TP 52s. So there are simpler ways to sail these boats. And yes, the Corinthian program, or it's been renamed, it's the Pro-Am series now. Within the GL 52 class. So the Pro-Am series, I think, is going to feature a total of 6 and possibly 7 boats. One of the variables you mentioned, Hooligan. Sometimes they sail with more than what we allow for the Pro-Am series is 3 pros or less. They're probably someplace near the edge. I don't know which way they're going to register, and it's unimportant to us. We're just happy to have them out there. And the Nimbus guys are coming back from Buffalo, New York. That's a big trip for them, just to do a couple races. Mike Daniker's got his Entourage program ready to roll, so they'll be in the water for Chicago Mac. My old boat has a different mast in it and a different owner now. That boat will be showing up. So, again, that's half a dozen more Pro-Am kind of teams. I'm very excited about it.
Just so I know, what's the rule for the 52s? How many pros, how many amateurs? Or if on the pro side, it doesn't matter.
It's unlimited, yeah. And we all sail together. We all share a start line, and we all sail together. So we get to find out where we are with the real guys all the time. Every once in a while, they let us come play the game with them. But for the Pro-Am series, it started off as like 2 pros. Then it kind of evolved to 2 pros plus a boat captain. Then we just simplified it and said 3 pros or less. We are going to be stringent about it. The reason to do it that way is we think that it's safer to sail these boats in most cases to have a pro or 2 aboard. I've got some seriously qualified amateurs in my boat, so it's a little different for us, but that's the rule. It's 3 or less, and we'll have a separately scored series, but we also get scored in the whole group as well.
I'm curious, what separates pro from amateur?
According to the rules, how you earn your living. So if you're paid to be there, then you're a pro.
Okay. So I could be a school teacher, and if you pay me $50 to race on your boat, I'm a pro.
Yeah, there are some workarounds that are a struggle, and people do that. They hire somebody to work for their business, but the person doesn't work. There's all kinds of stuff that happens, but we haven't had any problems at all in this group. This is not a fighting, squabbling kind of a. This is just us club sailors trying to go have fun.
I get that. When we talked to Paul Goodison earlier in the season, we kind of off the record talked, and I didn't want to get into specifics, but he's one of the top sailors, obviously, in the world. And we were talking about the kind of money he makes as a sail racer. And it legitimately is less money than the backup catcher for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
So, and he's the best at his sport. He's one of the top.
Right, I know. Yeah.
So it's sometimes people have a wrong perception of what football, basketball, television revenue might be as compared to other sports. And so once in a while, I try to put it into sort of apples and oranges. So somebody that's, he's a pro, but, it's still a lot of work because he's probably got a day job someplace.
Yeah, sailing doesn't have a lot of commercial value, at least here in the States. There are a small number of guys that earn their living doing it, and a lot of them are struggling to do it, but that's what they've chosen, and it's great. And we love them and need them. And I think one of the best parts about the sport, and honestly, one of my favorite parts about being in the 52s is that as a total club family style program that we are, we get to go and sail against these guys. So this is kind of a question of, would you rather beat your buddy at golf, or would you rather go golf against Tiger Woods and learn something? We chose to go down that road. And as you know, we get smacked around pretty good, pretty often. And they rarely let us have a good start, and less rarely let us have a good finish. But it does happen. Last week was one of those times, and that makes it all worth it. But to answer your question about the pro thing, the ability to just to circulate with all those people and to learn from them, they're all super helpful. It's not at all uncommon to walk down the dock and see Matt Cassidy or one of these kind of top level 52 Super Series pros, world champions, Olympians, whatever, stopping down the dock to give us a piece of advice, or maybe to show Ella, my daughter, who's our bow person, different ways to rig the kite. And hey, I watched this happen, and maybe you ought to consider XYZ. And that really is our favorite thing. It's just, we're getting better pretty quick because we have access to a lot of really good people. So it's really cool. Most sports, you don't get to go and do that. I can't go sign up for round of golf with Tiger Woods, but in sailing we can do it, and we do it all the time.
I played at golf pro-ams as a writer and a sports writer with some of the pros, and I'm a high school golf coach. You think you had a pretty good game, and then you go play with those guys.
Yeah,
it's like the difference between me and a 3-year-old. I mean, it's just amazing how talented those guys are. So
there's big differences that you'll see watching us sail against these guys too.
Absolutely.
Every once in a while it all just comes together, and we live for those moments.
Well, listen, good luck in the upcoming match. I'm sure our paths will cross, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, Greg, sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Smiles are powerful. They spread joy, laughter, and hope. But not everyone gets a fair chance at a smile. Every 3 minutes, a baby is born with a cleft, making it difficult to talk, hear, eat, and even breathe. In America, most children with clefts receive immediate care, but others around the world may never have access to the surgery they need to thrive. Smile Train is changing that. As the world's largest cleft charity, our sustainable model has sponsored more than 1.5 million smiles. We offer training and financial support to local medical professionals so they can provide life-changing surgery and other essential services at no cost to families.
It's wonderful to see these children, to hear the difference that we make. And for me, being born with a cleft lip and palate, knowing what they went through is so life-changing for me. They're not just helping a child, but they're helping a family, a community.
Help us change the world one smile at a time.
I'll never forget the day I nearly died. I was a young journalist with a great career, starting a family. The only way we found out I had any kind of heart issue was when I went into sudden death. My coworkers sprung into action. They've recently been trained in life-saving CPR protocols developed by the American Heart Association. They're the ones that kept me alive until the medics came. They did many tests on me in the hospital after my cardiac arrest and created a treatment plan, all with research from the American Heart Association. I think unless you are a heart disease patient, you may not know how much work the American Heart Association does behind the scenes to save your life. Since my cardiac arrest, I've had 2 more children. I've watched all 3 of my children grow into adulthood. I'm gonna cry now. Graduate from college, my daughter got married. I have grandchildren, and I'm still here.
Learn more about the American Heart Association's work at helpheart.org.
We just happened to be walking back to the boat and caught up with Kevin Warren from Markset Bot. He's kind of working on some new technology and kind of testing out some things here on the 4th of July weekend. We thought we'd spend a couple of seconds talking with him. I get a quick second here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Nice to see you.
You too.
Just
live video feed here.
Playing with the bots, I see.
Yeah, we are working on. So what we do after we roll out new firmware is we test them for a couple hundred hours. So I'm just getting some time on it.
It's kind of fun, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. July 4th, baby.
No, I get that. Just briefly on Sail GP.
Mm-hmm.
They've lost another North American state. They're coming back for 26. They're coming to New York, but they're leaving San Francisco. So now you got 3 trips down under. That changed the monster at all?
Well, they're mostly handling it themselves now.
Okay.
So I'm traveling a lot less, which helps. But yeah, it's going to be an epic year for sure. Being gone for 14 events is a lot.
That's a full-time job.
Yeah, it turns out.
How's the company doing?
Good. Yeah, we're almost at 500 now of the bots.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much sale? How much rent?
Well, that's a pretty even split. So
Okay.
we get it's about 33% do long-term rentals, 2-3 years, and then about 33% rent for regattas or for a season, and about 33% buy.
Because when we talked at one point, you know, the rental was not really a main discussion point, especially when you're early days.
Yeah.
But it kind of became a pretty strong arm of sales for you.
It's critical, right? So that people who aren't sure yet, right, because it's new stuff, almost everybody wants to try it. So we also do a rent to buy, which is pretty popular, where somebody will rent it for that first season and then keep it afterwards. As we get more mature, I think there'll be less of that, right? But people need to see it firsthand to see how it works.
Cool. Want to thank John and certainly thank Eric for spending some time with us talking about the race, and we're going to bring you a number of things coming up. We had a bunch of folks. I do have an apology to make to Keith Stauber, who is up in Bayfield right now racing, and he'll be headed down to Mackinac. We were promising to get up to both Milwaukee and the Bayfield race this week and do some coverage, but it's, for me, about 700 miles from the house. So we had some business to attend to, some PLL lacrosse activity that pays us money. This is a free show. So Keith, hopefully we catch up in Mackinac, or certainly catch up in Port Huron, but I wanted to tell you I do appreciate your friendship, and we're going to get to Bayfield at some point. We keep promising to come up there, and we don't do very well with our promises, but just wanted to mention that for what it's worth. So we'll be back with Wally, and certainly the conversation about luggage going to Mackinac. We'll be back in a second. We're back for our third installment. We're talking with Wally Cross, one of the great sailmakers here works for Quantum here in the great Midwest. Wally, we've kind of talked about sailmakers and what you can look for within that budget. We've also talked quite a bit about what to look for in sales and how things are made. Your pet peeves, and I'm not sure that's the right word, but things we can do better as non-sailing experts, but what do we do wrong with our sales while we're putting them away or just using them? What are some of the things we could learn from you?
Number one, put sails away dry. If that's a dehumidifier down below or drying the sails on after sailing, that's number one. Number two is think about your sails a little bit like a car, because it is an investment. So like in your car, you don't go around a corner at 50 miles an hour, you slow down. When putting up your mainsail, particularly high-cost sails, high modulus sails, carbon and Kevlar, I always recommend a customer back the boat up. Take some of the apparent wind off, because it's all the flogging and fluttering that goes on in a sail that breaks it down. Sails will last so long if they didn't have to tack or jibe or flutter. So when mainsails go up, you should be backing up. When mainsails go down, you should be backing up. When putting up a genoa or a jib, turn downwind. Take all that flogging off, that hitting the shrouds. That just beats up the sail. The next thing is often I'll get customers who will call me when the sail is pretty much shot and say, I need a new sail.
Right.
But there's nothing in between. So kind of like a car, I've got a relatively new car. Every 4,000 miles I take it in to get the oil changed and get it checked over. And I recommend a process of taking pictures. Take pictures of your sails at least once every 2-3 weeks. And send them to me, because what I'll do is digitize them, turn the shape into numbers, and tell you how the sail's aging. And sails over time age in a way that you can make adjustments to still get more performance, so that when the sail is 2-3 years old, you still get an 80% working sail, versus a sail in 2-3 years old is only 20% good. Sails usually get a little finer forward, round in the back. We can make adjustments and help that out.
Leaving furling sailings up in storms. You can explain that one.
Well, again, most cruisers have sails always up and furled. But if there's a squall coming and so forth, that's when a lot of damage happens. So one of two things you could do is make sure your sail's furled really well, and maybe have a few extra ties around the sail that it can't unfurl, that your furling line is well secured, or just take the sail down. Some of the better cruisers or bigger cruising boats today have these code zeros unfurlers. They for sure should come down, because they will unfurl in big winds. So again, when a squall's coming, it makes sense to take some of your sails down.
You've been talking about digitizing pictures and doing these other things. I've always looked at sail making as an art. You talk about sail making more as a science. Where does it fall?
I love that question because that falls right into my mindset of system sailing, which is a combination of art and science, the right brain, the left brain working together to make sense. And as a sailmaker, back when I started in '73, it was all just drawing an idea on a piece of paper, getting on the floor, cutting the cloth, and then ultimately looking at that sail in a three-dimensional form and saying, good, close, and different, making adjustments and so forth. But as sail making progressed, particularly when we got into the late 70s or early 80s, computers got involved, computer cutting got involved in the mid 80s, and now it's completely scientific using three-dimensional CAD/CAM programs to digitize and look at sails very, very carefully in a numerical way. But what I like doing, Greg, is taking a picture of a sail and looking at it visually, and we all have that idea that the leach is straight, the entry's round, the exit's X, the nice twist up top, taking that image and relating it to a number. And that's where I like digitizing it, because I can look at these numbers and relate the shape to a number, and then it all kind of makes more sense to me.
We don't get involved in very many controversial stories and commentary, but we wanted to feel important to be able to have this opportunity to do this. So one of the things we wanted to be able to do is talk to you about some rumors and some reporting that suggests that by August, U.S. sailing will not be able to pay its bills. It's been mentioned both on the North Coast and the West Coast and the East Coast that, there's financial problems. Yes, U.S. sailing has some issues, especially with the lawsuit that they went through last year. But in the last week, I've had a chance to spend some time with Charlie Enright talking. Certainly Richard Jepson, who's last year's president of the board. And we also had a chance to check in with Alan Osfield. And according to the sources that are saying that they're going to go bankrupt, I'm saying that there's financial problems, but it isn't as bad as it's made out to be. We all certainly wish them well, and wish them the best as possible. But sometimes you got to go back to journalistic integrity. Now, am I getting talking points from those people that are inside the premise? Well, that'll remain to be seen. That may be we were getting talking points from Charlie and some of the rest of them. But I'm going to trust them that they're telling us the truth, because I think it's something that you're supposed to do. And I think the leadership of the organization is obligated to tell the truth. If it turns out that I'm wrong and we get to August and they can't pay their bills, then I'll certainly come back here and tell you that it is what it is. But in the meantime, we all want them to be successful. We all want U.S. sailing to be successful, certainly with the Olympics coming up. But I just cringe at people jumping to conclusions when it's a rumor because one guy said this, that, or the other. We look through some of the paperwork, we look through some of the budget, and we talk to the guys that are involved in the process. I don't think they would lie to your face. I just don't think that's true. We hope that they do the best and that they are working forward. I will believe Charlie when he tells me that they're working towards the best ecosystem possibly for the Olympic program. And I guess being a long-term journalist, it bothers me when people speculate when they don't have the facts behind them, when it's just somebody saying something. That being said, we'll see where the road takes us, and I could be wrong, they could be wrong, but I think it's important to at least give you the other side of it, where I think that it's more than just talking points.
At the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, ending abuse is not just our job, it's our promise.
I'm Naheem Hines. I support the Muscular Dystrophy Association because they help my mom and kids like Ethan.
Thanks to the Muscular Dystrophy Association and people like you, I have more hope than ever before.
Join us and learn more at mda.org today.
Welcome back. We're having a number of conversations about the 101st running of the Bayview Mackinac race, sponsored by Bayview Yacht Club, and I'd always have to say sponsored by National Line. Anyway, we're talking with Beth and Joseph Kurta, and they have got a system and a process of helping you make your luggage traveling easier. And I'll let you guys explain it, but essentially, you kind of got the idea from down under, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct on that?
That's exactly right.
So we're looking at doing Sydney Hobart this year, and we've seen Chicago, Mackinac in the past do a bag service, and we thought that it'd be something that the sailors of the Bayview to Mackinac race could find useful.
Okay. How do they just, okay, so start with you can drop it off July the 10th, at Bayview Yacht Club at the parking lot from 12 to 7, which
Yep.
is during
So
skipper's
during,
registration. Let me
yep,
get
during
that.
skipper registration. Yep.
You can do it Friday morning at the Port Huron Pavilion near the Harbor Master's office from 9 to 4, again during skipper registration. And
That's
then
right.
Saturday, parking lot across in the Port Huron Yacht Club. So for $35, how many bags and exactly what you're going to explain to me, and tell me you're going to be better with my luggage than the airlines are going to be.
Yes.
Definitely.
Because there won't be as many people touching your luggage. It'll mostly be, so, Joseph and Nicholas are both actually racing the race. So, their Captain's Boat Care is really excited to offer the shore bag service. And so we're setting up the logistics in advance. But Joseph and Nicholas will be racing. So I'll be responsible fully for people's luggage. So when I get your luggage and it's tagged until it gets to Mackinac Island, it won't get lost. Nothing will happen to it because it'll just be me in charge of it. It won't be going to a bunch of different places. We'll tag everything. We'll keep track of it all. And then it will be delivered to the hotel on Mackinac Island.
A hotel or all hotels?
Whatever hotel you're staying at.
Wow, that's a lot of work. Now, bags must be pre-registered. I'm reading the specifications on this.
Yes.
They must be carry-on size and 25 pounds or less. So that makes sense. I don't know why I'd want something bigger than that. And no sales for non-luggage items permitted. So I thought that was cool. You can't end up having some for $35 for having to carry 300 pounds on the back. That's crazy. I mean, sure, there's somebody getting stupid, but.
Well, this first year we wanted to start with luggage, and I think we're open to expanding next year. But it's hard to, move dehumidifiers and cushions and sails. So the luggage is more manageable. So we thought we'd start there.
Is this a solution to a problem that doesn't exist? I don't mean that, jokingly, or is it just good service of something that maybe just nobody thought of because you picked it up from down under? And it's just kind of a service. Are people carrying those kinds of quantity of clothing when they go on these kind of races?
Well, a couple of things, Greg. So it did come because we were talking about when the boys are going to be in Australia and doing the Sydney Hobart, and they offer a great shore bag service. So we thought, gosh, why doesn't Bayview, do that for our racers? Not just Bayview, but why isn't that offered for this race? And so I've looked at what Chicago offers, and I think, we'll see. This is our first year; it's our trial year. I've been shore crew for a lot of races.
Very experienced. Shore crew.
Yeah. In Italy and everything. And sometimes you don't have someone to bring your bag to the island. And I think so that, there's not extra weight on these performance yachts. It's nice to have that service because not everyone has a shore crew who can bring their items to the island for them.
Are you worried at all about being overbooked, or are you kind of keeping it in a way that all of a sudden it's become so popular, you got to do, 6 runs up to Mackinac? That could be an issue too.
I will be very excited to solve that problem of being overbooked.
Fair enough.
No, we'll handle it. We really don't know what to expect because this is the first year. So maybe everything goes up in Captain's Boat Care's truck, or maybe we rent a U-Haul. We will make whatever the response is to this service, we will make it work.
And we have such a really great team at Captain's Boat Care. We'll be able to roll with the punches any way that it comes out.
Well, hopefully you don't have to roll with any punches, but I think it's a brilliant idea because I'll tell you, again, using Ski World, is that when we go out to races, we ship our skis FedEx, and they go right to the facility. I don't have to worry about trying to carry these long things on or getting them in and out of, a pair of skis, $1,000. They're very expensive. Golf clubs now. Whoever thought you could ship your golf clubs on vacation? Instead of putting them in your car or flying, these guys are spending, $100 to have very expensive golf clubs. It's the same kind of thing. So I think it's a brilliant idea. I really do.
I could take golf clubs in addition to carry-on luggage.
Okay.
That's easy. Maybe. If
right,
you have golf clubs you'd like to send up to the island, let me know.
Is there an email or something we can send out? Maybe we'll put the email right below you, but where can they find out about all this information to register?
That's great. Thank you. We're just using my personal email, which is ekurta@comcast.net.
Paid. So if you have any interest,
Thank you.
Certainly get a hold of Beth and Joseph. Best of luck in the races. I know you picked up with Tim Profit on Fast Angle, so you're on a pretty good boat, to say the least.
It'd be a great ride.
And I do
Really
want to point
excited.
out that I did speak with Tim beforehand, and we've spoken with Bayview. We're not going rogue and, presenting this opportunity without, everyone being in the know of what's going on.
Yeah.
So I met with Port Huron Yacht Club's Commodore yesterday, and so everybody's on board.
Okay. Well, listen, I appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll see each other soon. Thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks.
I want to thank John Nedeau and certainly Eric Weinsma for talking a little bit about the Queen's Cup, and then certainly we appreciate the Curtis and all the stuff that they've done. We've got the big races coming up, Chicago to Mac, and then certainly the Bayview Mac race coming up, and we'll have some fun with that. We're not sure exactly where we're going to be for it, but we'll be out and about, and we'll see you soon.